welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Blazer Victory Podcast. John Duncan here, and of course, I'm joined as always with both of my co-hosts, Darian Smith and Jimmy Marion. And we've got an exciting episode for you guys today to discuss recap two UAB basketball games. In these games, UAB basketball is just finding ways to keep winning. And that's the title for this episode. But before we get into UAB basketball, this episode and all episodes of the Blazer Victory podcast are brought to you by Cahaba Brewing Company. And we want to spotlight the Jimmy's favorite beer, if I can get it up, the Blood Orange Blonde. Yes. And as of yesterday, Cahaba announced that in the tap room, they have $2 off 6-packs of the Blood Orange Blonde. So hopefully they still have some, but don't shoot the messenger if they don't. But go on down to the tap room. There's all events always going on in the Cahaba tap room. So make sure that you go down there and let them know that you heard about them on the Blazer Victory podcast, because that helps us out a lot. Speaking of what also helps us out a lot is YouTube. We need more subscribers on YouTube. I think right now we're at 379. We're trying to get to 500, but we have a goal if we can get to 400 before football season. So we need y'all, the listeners, please help spread the word about our YouTube channel at Blazer Pod, and let it help us get to over 400 before football season. And I think that's a realistic, attainable goal for the podcast. That would be sweet. And hey, as we mentioned before, tell your significant other to subscribe to our channel. And if not, hey, if you see that phone lay around, don't go snooping. But you can hit YouTube at BlazerPod and go ahead and subscribe for us, and hit that like button.
Yeah,
Ain't that right, Darren?
That's a very realistical thing to do, So I agree with you, man. I'm gonna start saying that word everywhere. I don't think that's a word, but hey. I think that's a realistical expectation. Like I like it. It flows.
I like it too. Let's patent it. Yeah. Realistical.
We need the shirts. It's time. We back in the game, baby.
Let's go, baby. We back. BVP.
Realistical, baby.
I should just change the title of the episode to Realistical. Yeah, I love it. Need to figure out how to spell that. But hey, another thing. This is the first episode that we've done since our interview with athletic director Mark Ingram. If you have not, I say this on the Patreon shows that I do every week, give that episode a listen. Whether you do it on YouTube, watch it, or listen on the audio side, Spotify, wherever, Apple Podcasts. Really good content. And again, it's over an hour long. And, we respect Mark for, making the time for us to come on and answer some tough questions. I mean, this interview was like not sunshine or flowers or whatever. Like, we asked some tough questions, and Mark did a great job clarifying and answering those questions. So if you have not, at the end of this video on YouTube, I will link that interview for you to just click on and go watch. Guys, did I miss anything else before we jump into hoops? Okay. All right. Sweet. Well, UAB basketball. Man, let's start with the Bartow Classic. And we're going to get into that Rice game. Trust me. Let's start with the Bartow Classic. UAB, and a great crowd, by the way. Over 5,000 people attended. I know we would like for that number to be a little higher, but I thought the fans brought the energy. Bartow was lit at points during that game, but primarily UAB gets the dub, 85-78 over the South Florida Bulls. And I just want to start our discussion and recapping that game with Jabari McGee. That he played lights out for the Bartow Classic, and of course, Yaks did Yaks things. Of course, we love Yaks on the Blazer Victory podcast. Shout out. But Jabari, man, he was just on another level. And you're going to see the central theme to this episode is, of course, Yaks is going to keep doing Yaks things, but we need our other players, especially as we head into March and ending this regular season and entering the conference tournament. We're going to need other players to step up. But we want to start in the South Florida game and spotlighting Jabari McGee. And Jimmy, what did Jabari's play in this South Florida game mean for this UAB team?
Well, Jabari McGee, arguably his most complete game in a UAB basketball uniform. He's had other moments. He's had other double-digit scoring games. I think he had 25 earlier in the season against a non-Division I opponent. But when you look at his performances against Division I level competition, he was able to do it all. For Jabari McGee to shoot the way that he did, efficient, 7 of 9 from the field, but also 2 for 2 from deep. We know that this UAB basketball team over the course of the season has had times in which they didn't shoot as well as they'd like to from the perimeter. And so when you can get that from Jabari McGee, because, really at that UAB point guard rotation, you've got McGee and you've got Tyron Moore, and they both bring different things to the table. Tyron Moore, as we'll talk about later, can get a little bit more assist and ball movement, and obviously from three over the course of his basketball playing career has been a high volume 3-point shooter. So he brings a little bit something different to the table. McGee, on the other hand, is more of that force, drive downhill, defensive minded player, can score around the basket. So when you can have Jabari McGee play defense, get downhill, and also stretch it out to the 3-point line and make shots from there as well, is really big. So yeah, for Jabari McGee to play 32 minutes, to be as efficient as he was, to hit the ball from outside, and still, be a net positive on the defensive side is certainly big for this UAB basketball team.
All right, Darian.
Yeah, I think and what we ask of Jabari defensively is different because Jabari may be around 6'2" in the area, but he's a strongly built, solid guy, right? So a lot of times he gets caught on switches. We switch a lot, and you'll see him down there battling his ass off against bigs. So a lot of times if you see him in foul trouble, that's what happened. He's, we've seen him in a couple games in foul trouble, and he's just battling because he's a physical guy, right? And he's trying to use all his tools. And sometimes I believe he gets frustrated in games, just trying to find his role, trying to do what's asked. Coach AK is one of the best coaches in the conference, but Coach is like, he's going to give it to you straight. He's going to be hard on you, right? Because I feel like he's one of those coaches that if he's hard on you, that means that he's still putting you in the game constantly. That means he expects a lot out of you. He's just trying to get it out of you. So if you stick to that program, it'll work. I think Jabari is in the middle of that program. I love to see games like this in February, right, of the season from McGee, and just knowing what he brings defensively. I love to see players get rewarded for playing passionately, and just sticking with it, and then finally seeing it come together. Like I feel like we had that with EG when Eric Gaines was here. It was just like, man, we work on this. I remember we were looking at his body language, and it was like, man, no, but something clicked last year. I remember last year, especially kind of the second half of last year with EG, and he was just, I saw him spirited, right? It's like his whole attitude shifted, and he was one of the guys that led us in the tournament last year. If we didn't have EG, we don't do the things that we did easily. And I feel like Jabari is kind of like a mirror image of that. Like it's been hard for him trying to learn. He's that force multiplier type of player that, like Jimmy stated, that comes downhill, can finish through contact, right? When he was in junior college, he was a high scoring player. I want people to forget. So it's hard to like adjust these roles and try to see where you fit at. But I like to see him find this role, and then from that role, you can grow into those scoring ways. You just got to adjust to this game. It's a different speed, a different level, different quality. And to see him kind of starting to figure that out, you might have a game here, now the next game you might do so, but you have more good than bad games. And just to see that pay off for him is pretty cool. So props to him. Props to him for sticking with it. I know he has some tweets and stuff like that. We was like, what's Jabari doing? But now I love to see to come out on the other side, just to prevail, right? It's about being resilient. And it's cool to just see him be rewarded with good play that he put down, nobody else. And I'm glad to see that. And my other player, and we talk about him more that I besides Yax, is AJ Vasquez. I love that we run the plays, him coming off the screens and his herky jerky. He has this herky jerky style to him, right? He does a good job with deceleration. He'll catch the ball coming off a drag screen, coming around the curl, and then it's like he'll stop. Oh no, shoot. Oh, like pick up, hang, dribble, kind of go. Oh, now he's drawing a foul on you because he has you off balance. And I'm like, man, he's really unlocked his game. He knows. Earlier, if you look at these podcasts, we'll talk about guys not knowing their roles, trying to figure it out, trying to find their spots. AJ has kind of picked back up on where he left off last year when he was hot, like when he tore Temple up last year. He's stacking consistent games together with that little herky-jerky style, and guys cannot catch on, shooting the ball, assisting playmaking, and getting to the rack and getting to the free throw line. I'm getting excited about this team piece by piece starting to figure out player by player their roles and where they're supposed to be.
Just before we hop off Vasquez, I mean, that's 5 straight games in double-figure scoring. 4 out of the last 5 games, he's taken at least 15 shot attempts. So the emphasis and they inserted him into the starting lineup. So I think there's a real emphasis right now heading into that final 5-game stretch of conference play as well as that conference tournament to get AJ Vasquez playing as he was against a Temple in the conference championship game last year. So they're letting Vasquez shoot. Hopefully, efficiency-wise, he sees some more shots go down as per his standard. But ultimately, it seems as if it's obvious right now this UAB offense wants AJ Vasquez shooting the ball, whether it's from deep or getting into his actions or getting into the paint. And hopefully he's able again to continue not just high volume shooting, but again doing a little bit better on the efficiency side too.
Definitely, Jimmy, and also too, like Vasquez starting these last couple games, has to motivate Butta Johnson. He's been in a little funk before these 2 games, and hey, Butta coming off the bench hit 2 key 3-pointers late in this South Florida game. Key dunk at the end of the South Florida game, and a couple huge free throws down the stretch of this game. And we'll get into his performance at Rice, but Vasquez playing well, and I think AK even said it. I can't remember if it was the presser or radio. Like he's wanting to motivate a Butta to play better, and it seems to work. Seems to have worked up to this point. One guy that struggled lately, and he's been in a funk these last couple weeks, is Christian Coleman. I know only 4 points in the South Florida game. Players go through ebbs and flows. They're hot, and then they go through these funk spells, and we've seen it before with players. But we're gonna need CC, especially the end of the regular season, but especially in this conference tournament, because Christian Coleman, when he's on, this team can do great things, and we saw that even last year in the conference tournament. When he's on, this team is on, and we kind of saw it in the San Diego State game. in the NCAA tournament. When he struggles, his team struggles per se. But I know CC. I know AK. Is just telling them just remain confident, keep shooting, keep getting in the lane, be aggressive. So we know CC, and we know what he's capable of, and looking to see that down the stretch in the finishing off this regular season. Um, Defensively, I know there's some concerns. I see it. A lot of UAB fans on Twitter, social media, Instagram, wherever. Um, giving up 78 to South Florida, but giving up 27 points to the big Reynolds. Man, I do know. I do need. We talked about this before we recorded. Before we started recording. Obviously Will Shaver has quit the team. So really, Yax, CC, and Ezeguero, that's it for bigs for UAB. So Yax and CC cannot get in foul trouble. And, we kind of see that play out, kind of not, I don't want to say, I guess being timid a little bit, especially for the bigs on defensive lately. But that's just, it is what it is, we I don't know. Can you Darren, can you speak on that? Just about the bigs. Because you don't want them to play timid, but you sure as hell don't want CC Yax as a Wero getting in foul trouble early on in games, because that spells recipe for disaster for this UAB team.
Yeah, I think you can say that for a lot of teams, because to have a talented big man, it's hard to get a talented 6'10", 6'9", 7-foot guy. They don't grow on trees, especially in our league, right? But I think CC, as far as as the bigs go, and just kind of trying to put an overall bow on it. I think sometimes he struggles against size, real size, sometimes. And I just think that he has to remember that he's probably the quickest big out there, and that you just attack with quickness. Just use that and just finish strong through contact once you do get to your spot, and just batter your ass off on defense, right? We know a guy may have a strength advantage on him because CC is not the biggest guy. He's long, but he's not really bulky. Okay, well, it's been a lot of players like that played a lot of basketball players are lanky type of guys. You just battle. You use your length, use your quick jump ability. He's explosive. Sometimes I think he may get in his head. I don't know. I'm not knowing for sure, but just looking at the flow of the game for him, you can tell when he's being aggressive and when he's feeling it. And versus like when a guy probably has been giving him trouble. We can put Ezeguero in, and he's more of a banger. He can bang around with guys like that. But I still think CC has a built-in advantage with his quickness and his ability to finish and his quick jump ability, right? You don't have to out-muscle a guy to get an offensive rebound. Use your quickness, get around, jump quick, double jump. Double jumping in basketball is really big. If you can get up, jump quick before a guy, or before the other guy can. Make sure to use your tools and don't fall into. It's kind of like boxing. You don't want to fall into another guy's style, right? If you're a slugger, you don't want to try to out technical box a guy. Knock him out, right? Bring him into your domain. And that's all I want CC to just remember, and just to be confident and go up strong. You can kind of tell when he's not being confident, when he's in his head. I have faith in him, right? I have faith that, like you said, everybody go through ebbs and flows. And then, also with the bigs, it's like, I think the 1-3-1, kind of looking at the game, the 1-3-1, your style is not right or wrong, right? I'm more of a conservative defensive guy. Every time I see us in that 1-3-1, I kind of, here we go with this, because a lot of times it can just wield easy buckets, whether it's the corner three or in Reynolds' case, it seemed like he got about 10 dunks just catching us in rotation, right? And he's a big body. So all you have to do is wall a guy off and then bam, dunk. And he caught us so many times like that. So I do think and against East Carolina, the big scored as well. I do think that is a problem. We do need to figure out some kind of resolution. I don't really know what the answer is. I'm not AK. AK can figure it out, but I do kind of see us being attacked down low by bigs, especially a big that can take up space and just vertically get up. But I think we'll figure out those answers. We still got these final games going into the into the conference tournament. So, and we'll have Memphis again. And that Donta dude that was talking all that noise, he's a big. He did eat our lunch. He did eat our lunch. He had that was his Super Bowl. He had his best game of his whole career since he started playing in middle school. That was his best game, I believe, that he ever had in his life. And he made sure that everybody knew that. So I don't think he'll have a game like that again. He tried to say some stuff about Yaks, but we'll see how it play out when they come back to UAB.
Yeah, it ain't gonna happen again in Bartow. I can tell you that.
I like I like what you were saying, Darren, about that, because that's what I was thinking about this final 5-game stretch. And opponent-wise, you're going to face a Wichita State team on the road that's got their big. I know Yaks got him on a poster last season, but then you've got FAU, who's got a big front line, as
they
well
got
as Memphis.
the big energy guy at FAU.
Got the big energy guy. I watched him last night. He drained the corner three with 5 seconds left, and they lost. So I tuned in a little bit to see them play. But yeah, 3 out of those 5 teams. I know Tulane's got. I think his name is Glenn. He's good. But 3 out of those 5 teams are going to really challenge this UAB, what is now a thin front court with some departures. So, we talked about the importance and the emphasis to stay out of foul trouble and to have CC playing at the level that he was down the stretch this past year. This is right around the final 5-game stretch and in the conference tournament in which Christian Coleman played his best basketball. And so right now, when you think about the ceiling of this UAB basketball team, we will need to reach that ceiling and him to have to reach his potential for us to have an outcome like we did last year.
Definitely. Well, again, great Bartow Classic honoring the legacy of Gene Bartow. It was great to see Murray and everybody in attendance for that game. But we can transition to what happened Wednesday night in Houston against Rice. And UAB Blazers, defeated Rice Owls, and there was never a doubt that UAB was going to win that game, right?
Liar.
That was the most crazy ending to a basketball game I think I have ever seen.
But but besides the ending, real quick, I want to give a shout out just to that game. If you just watch that game, that was some pure hoops being played. Like those boys are like, I know they were scoring a lot, but a lot of that scoring was against good defense. I rewatched the game and I'm like, that Dark dude was just pulling up and making threes. He had defense on him. You had Amos coming off making spin and ones and stuff. It was good defense. But on both sides, it was like pure hoops. So I think that's like one of the best games in the American that's been played all year by both teams. If we're just talking about guys really out there embracing what hoops is. And shout out to both of the teams. I was really, really entertained by just some good basketball, like good quick decisions, wasn't sloppy, right? Guys hitting shots, making good passes and making good decisions. I'm like, man, both of the teams look like tournament teams, NCAA tournament for this one game. So it's just shout out to Rice and shout out to our basketball team just for putting on a good display of basketball.
I agree.
I need one of y'all to do me a favor, and I'm going to stop watching the games live. And if we win, y'all tell me we won, and then I'll go back and watch it because it'll be a lot less stressful because I was sitting there thinking, oh, my gosh. But, yeah, you're right. That was one of the craziest endings ever, not to cut you off, Sean.
No, you're good. I was just going to say it was a shame that only 30 people were in attendance in that game. I mean, I don't want to attendance shame anybody. But
strays, the Rice Owls just catching strays. We already beat them. They missed 2 free throws and had their hearts broken, and now we're just piling on them.
Man, I don't.
So John,
Yeah.
could you tell us? Could you give us a step by step what happened at the end? I want people to just know exactly how this went.
All right. So UAB was down by 3. Tyron Moore attempted a 3-point shot. It was fouled. Jimmy was like 5 seconds, right around that. 5 seconds left.
Yeah. Pump fake, drew the defender in the air, and then
obvious foul.
Yeah.
Obvious. Misses the front end. So it's like, okay, crap. You know, what are we going to do? Makes the second. So now UAB's down by 2. And you're like, okay, definitely missed the third and just give Yax or CC somebody an opportunity for an offensive rebound and put back. He makes it. So, but as the shot went up, Yaxel Lindeborg was fouled, and he was fouled. I don't see any Rice fans on Twitter or anything, but I heard on the audio I guess one of the 5 fans were in attendance were like, yes, this is terrible. No, it was a foul. He pushed him. So
and before you jump to that next part, I don't know if I heard AK in the post game, but it was really funny because he had mentioned it was very subtle, so you had to like hear it. But he was talking about that third free throw attempt, and he was like, we're gonna make it or not or whatever. Like I think Yax had looked over at AK and asked like what we're gonna do, whatever. And AK had told Tyron to make it. And he had said that despite that, Yax went for the offensive rebound. He said that was because Yax had been watching Tyron in practice, shoot free throws in practice or whatever. So he was just made like a little subtle joke. I guess Tyron's not been shooting free throws that well in practice.
Oh, that's hilarious. I didn't hear that. But Yax is fouled. So again, UAB is now down by 1 because Tyron Moore made the third free throw. So Yax makes both free throws to put UAB up 90-89. Again, there's 5 seconds, right around 5 seconds left. Rice inbounds the ball, and immediately, and what did we say his name was? Darian.
Amos.
Oh yeah, famous Amos Cookies. Yeah, Amos. There we go. Drives the length of the court, shoves Jabori, and they call a foul on Jabori. Anyway, end of the game. Okay, they called the foul on Rice earlier, so if there was going to be some contact, they were going to call it, and they called the foul. Speaking of the ebbs and flows, as we talked about earlier, the swing of emotions watching this game from home, and we're like, oh my God, like please just miss one of them. Please, let's just go to overtime. But we're thinking like, hey, he's going to make both of them. And I think there was like 1 second left or something. But the famous Amos Cookies, gets to the line and misses both free throw attempts. Like, how crazy is this? Like, I swear earlier, like Rice was making all their free throws, making all their shots. Like, to have the game end on, Yax makes 2 free throws. Amos for Rice misses both free throws. Like, I would have hate to be a gambler in a live game gambler for this game. And you put money on Rice and just to have it fall in the last 5 seconds. Like
it sucked for the Owls because Amos had been cooking us the whole game, like off the bench. He dropped 25, I believe. Yep. So that was the guy you kind of wanted with the ball, and but I wanted to point out something that on that call to where some fans of Rice maybe have been upset and say that's a horrible call, right? We get the lucky make. It was like a 4-point swing all in one right there. But recall to the first half, which shout out to Darth from Rice 6'7" guy, was just draining threes, draining shots, playing good defensively, getting to the rim. I'm like, I really like this Darth guy out here, right? But let's recall back to the first half. I don't know if people remember, he shot a corner 3, and they called a foul, right? This is the first time I've seen this happen twice in the game. They called a foul, so they got the ball back on that position, right? It was like 13-16. He shot the three, made it. It's 16-16, and they got the ball right back because they called a foul on the rebound because
Right.
guys was battling on the rebound. So you can't say, "Oh, bad call, bad call." You can disagree with the call, but it's consistent. In the foul that they called earlier in the game, it pissed me off because I was like, nothing even happened. Yax literally swam over. He got good position and got shoved in the back. It was a clear foul. So whether you like the call or not, it was a foul and it was consistent because Rice benefited from it earlier in the game. I just wanted to point that out so people can't say anything. I just thought that was interesting note.
I'm glad you did, Darren. I mean, because you look at the free throw attempts: 28 for Rice, 22 for UAB. Total fouls 18-17. I mean, it was a fairly officiated game. And it's just good basketball. I mean, we talked about it, Darren. You alluded to it earlier when we started talking about this Rice game. Did you realize that combined, both teams only had 9 turnovers in this entire game? Like, it was just good basketball. And the assist, UAB 22 assist. It was just good basketball. And UAB got the dub. And I said it on Twitter: a win is a win, especially on the road in conference play. You just got to find a way to win. And let's spotlight Butta Johnson. Career high 24 points in this ball game, 10 of 13 from the field, banking in threes. I mean, we need this Butta going forward. I mean, I know we can't get asked 24 from here on out, but I mean, we can expect 10 plus. And it seems that Vasquez, who's doing well, that's what we talked about earlier in the starting lineup. I think that it's motivating Butta coming off the bench to just do well, and hit clearly, clear as day for that Rice game. Butta career high 24 points coming off the bench.
Yeah, and I don't even think that we're talking about this crazy ending beginning with 5 seconds if it wasn't for what Butta Johnson did beginning at the 1 minute and 48-second mark. Rice had hit a 3-point shot, put Rice up 5, and Butta came back. Rice had called a timeout. AK drew up a great action to get Butta a shot at the top of the key, hits a 3. Rice came down again. I believe they scored, and then Butta came back. So Rice was up 4 at that point, and then Butta came back and hit a shot that was reminiscent of when he got real hot, at Memphis, and he was just flying around and hitting threes. And so he hit 2 big, timely threes, and that's what we've got. That's what we've gotten accustomed to with Butta. When I think about Butta, I always think about clutch. I think about timely shot making. When the UAB offense is struggling and needs a shot, the shot clock is dwindling down. I think about FAU at Bartow Arena last year. He hit like a big long 3. I think about South Florida when the UAB offense was struggling and USF was kind of making that game tight at the end. Him end of shot clock. In which he's been able to be clutch for this UAB basketball team, and you love to see it over a guy that again, as we look at the landscape of college basketball, the Butta Johnsons of the world, the guys that stay in state, come to a quote unquote G5 program, have success, and choose to stay versus going for whatever other opportunity may present itself thus far, has been a hell of a thing to watch. And he's one of those guys that, like, you just, as UAB fans, you just feel the excitement for. And so, yes, he's had a difficult, I think it was Brad, who had said to me that he's kind of having his sophomore slump during his junior season from a shooting perspective. And, despite all of that, hopefully he's able to use this momentum shooting the last couple of games to, again, as we talked about with Christian Coleman, play his best basketball down the stretch.
Well said, Jimmy. Darren, anything else on this Rice game?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that Yax guy. He just
a double machine.
Yeah, double. We forgot to mention the 19 rebounds he had. I believe against South Florida. Or just his bag is steady growing. I saw him right, go right wing, dribble, get into the chest of defender, come back behind the back, step back, free throw line, mid range jumper. That's cash. I'm like, okay, like we get it, dude. You show it off, But yeah, it's just cool to see him continue to develop. And shout out to Esguero. I feel like he found his role on the team. Tyron Moore found his role on the team. We talked about McGee. So we have our eight. Our eight, those guys are going to play, right? Shout out to Tony, who doesn't have to score to be effective, right? Highlight block he had, I believe, against South Florida, right? Pinning a dunk to the backboard. So that's crazy. That's crazy. He should, in my eyes, should be a first round pick, I believe. 6'9", got every tool in the bag. Very unselfish player, swings the ball, connective. What do you want? Block shots. He has 6 block shots. I guess was that UCF or East Carolina, one of the two. The dude, he does South Florida, yeah. He does it all, right? He was the defensive player of the year last year in the conference. He's putting up Cooper Flag type numbers, right? So this dude I think he's the real deal. I think he should be a first round pick. I hope scouts come to the Blazer Victory podcast and they hear us talking about this dude. I just think he fills so many holes. Whatever you need from him, he can do. So shout out to Yax, man. I'm glad that he decided to stay. I don't know how many times we're going to be able to witness that going forward. But shout out to all the guys that stay. Shout out to Tony, man. Tony has been here his whole career. He came here out of high school. Shout out to Buddy Johnson the same way. Jimmy brought it up earlier. So, again, I wanted to make sure to highlight Tony because he doesn't have to be effective. People can look and go, oh, he didn't score that. He plays good defense. He's hustle, he rebound. He does it all, right? So if that means a guy like Vasquez can play, make, and get his style going, if that means that Butter can get his shot going, I think that's more important. Shout out T Squared right there. Look at it.
Woo. Let's go. Yeah. Tony, hey, and so hey, we love all the guys, man. Like it's just exciting to see. We're not going to talk about the East Carolina loss, and I mean it sucked. But UAB still finding ways to win, and let's hope that this continues this Sunday against the Temple Owls. Folks, make it out to Bartow Arena, please. 1:00. But if you can't, that game will be nationally televised on ESPNU. And next Thursday, man, tough trip up to Wichita. Wichita, man, winners of 5 in a row. Arguably the hottest team in the AAC. But just need Memphis to slip up a couple more times. And we know they're going to slip up in Bartow. That's right. They ain't going to beat us in Bartow. Mark it.
Hey, like I said, that was Donja's Super Bowl. That was his best game since he played, since his 5th grade middle school game when he played for Mr. Parker, and he dropped his best game ever. And then he's been mid ever since. And then he got to this game and he saw Yax. He thought, maybe he could do something there. And he had his best game ever. And he wanted everybody to know. So shout out to Mr. Donja. I'm glad that he had his moment, his 15 minutes of fame. We'll see if he'll be able to have that in Bartow, man. Let's just see what's up.
Talking about he didn't even know who Yax was. Man, he's preseason player of the year in the AAC. Man, come on. Just shut up, dude. Like, come on now. I went to that game and then leaving the game and I saw those comments. I was like, come on, dude. Like, just come on.
Yeah, just have a little bit of class about yourself. But like I said, maybe I will say this. Sometimes as players, you do get a little in the moment. You hype and adrenaline is still flowing. It happens to the best of us. He's a kid, right? Like, I'm talking noise, but I understand as a grown adult on the other side of this now. So let me bring a little sense to it. At the same time, it's still middle fingers to Memphis, right? Mm-hmm. Like, let's be clear. Let's be clear where we stand here.
No respect.
So let's just get it understood. We expect to win when they come here, but first we need to get through Temple and Wichita. But that Wichita game is going to be tough. That's going to be a real on the road in a frenzied environment. I think that's going to be a tough game, but I think we can pull it out.
Definitely. Well, all right, Jimmy, send us out until next time.
Hey, John said it already. Sunday, 1 o'clock Central at Bartow Arena. Big game. We've got an important 5-game stretch, but it all starts with the Temple Owls. So appreciate everybody listening. Y'all have a great weekend. Go Blazers.